All right, everybody, welcome to After Hours YYC. We can call this episode 4 or just not a planned episode. We just got together with some friends because it's been a rough day in the restaurant industry in Alberta. What do you guys think about that? I think it's
I don't know. It's. I think we're still processing it.
yeah, it's just so that's why we're drinking aguardiente from Colombia, because this is hitting us hard. We got this. I don't know. What do you think it tastes like, aguardiente?
It tastes a bit like Sambuca, maybe a bit of absinthe,
Yeah,
kind
absinthe,
of.
an yeast flavor to it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's some Bill Cosby in there too. I don't know. I don't know what happens to you later. But we do have a lovely Brunello, Bolziliano Brunello di Montalcino. So it's Brunello is a very prestigious wine in the Tuscan region of Montalcino, made with Sangiovese, and I think it's bottled for 2 years, aged for 2 years. So if you get a bottle, if somebody gives you Brunello that's 2018, they're lying to you, all right? That's just a Sangiovese.
I've listened to the first few podcasts. So I appreciate that the product has gotten better. now the next one will be with a little bit Cristal, some Dom for.
Well, you know what? That Cascajun wasn't too bad. But anyways, we do have Tony here today with us. He is from PizzaFace. We wanted to bring him on the podcast in a different time, like in a better way, because we want to have, there's so many funny stories we could talk about. But today it's been a rough day on me for sure. I didn't expect this today with the new lockdowns and the new rules, and I just think that if any restaurant owner would like to join us, you're more than welcome to message me at the business at SS106 Aperitivo Bar at After Hours YYC. You can email me at dom at ss106yyc.com if you want to come on the podcast, if you want to talk to me, because I think this is the time where restaurant owners need to come together. And I'm not saying we need to come together. We need to see.
What about gym owners?
Gym owners, yes.
All
yes,
jobs
yes,
matter. Come on.
Yes. We need to. I'm not saying we need to come together. That's all I'm saying is I don't know what the best way is, but don't be silenced. Don't be afraid.
Solidarity, yeah.
We don't be silenced and don't be afraid to talk and don't play both sides of politics. If you believe that your restaurant should be open, I think that you have the right to say it. So if you want to come and talk to me.
What does the next few weeks entail for you personally in this business?
This time I'm not going to lay off my kitchen staff since they do have visas from Italy, so I can't keep laying them off, and I'm just going to push more takeout. We're going to do the patio. Hopefully it doesn't snow next week. Yeah. And maybe sell a lot of booze. We got a couple corporate things where they're picking up the food and delivering it to the house. Maybe I'll turn it into a grocery store. I don't know how far this is going to go, what level. And is that table by the door, where the garage door, is that considered a patio table?
That's on your patio now.
That's on my patio. Yeah.
Well, Dan said it. So.
It must be true.
Yeah. I think that we can spend the next little while talking about the hurdles we have to overcome. But, the pivot that you've made from day one has been pretty impressive from an outsider's perspective. So the fact that you, in the short term, aren't letting people go and finding alternative ways as you always do is pretty inspiring. And,
I think he deserves it, right?
Yeah, man. I appreciate that we have this podcast and we can get together and we can unify and things like that. But there's also been a divide in the industry between the people that got up and did stuff and then people that sat back and complained. And as we talked previously before we turned this on, it seems that some people who just sat back are getting the benefits from the government, and people who busted their hump aren't getting as much because they didn't show as much decline.
Yes, true. Like the first lockdown. That's what happened with me. I worked my ass off by myself, and I didn't get nothing because the percentages weren't that. Then the second lockdown, I was only supposed to close for a couple of weeks. I ended up closing longer, and I got a bunch of subsidies, which is, it's not a good way of thinking. If you close, you get more stuff from the government.
And I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm not here to dictate.
Yeah, of course.
But even if you look at today, you have a divide of restaurants who are like, we're back at it, guys. Come support us through pickup and delivery. And then there's the restaurants that are like, governments shut us down. like poor us. And so I want that avenue for all restaurant owners to speak, but I can't, as someone who's watched you do everything, I'd like to give you to give yourself credit for constantly adjusting.
Yeah, it does get tiring, and that's why I do have all these rants on Facebook. But I think that
But I guess just cut you off one more time before that. Is like you're doing both. You're defending small business, but then you're also making the pivot. That's that's again to say you're the one that's defending us, but you're also personally making the pivot, which is good because
I never paid this guy to come on the podcast.
no, I'm
making me sound really.
I'm trying to be.
I know.
I'm trying to be positive.
You're trying to be positive with the situation we have because 3 hours ago I wasn't very positive. I thought this was going to start a little different, but no, it's true. We have to fight. I don't want any other restaurant shutting down, and we have to maybe help each other out and let's promote each other and we just got to do something. We can't this is number 3. Is there going to be a number 4? Is it going to be when does it end? I know I'm sounding dramatic now, but we never thought there would even be a second or a third, now a third. And
in the press conference today, I think the Premier said that they anticipate enough people being vaccinated by the end of May, I believe it was, that we should be, I think he said over the hump or in the clear kind of thing, whatever the point was.
But it sounds so much like 2 weeks to
I
flatten
know.
the curve.
No, and that's my point is, and what do you trust, what don't you trust? But at that point, if enough people are vaccinated, we're past that point where there theoretically should be a percentage of people are vaccinated that the R number shouldn't be able to get out of hand and that things shouldn't be able to take off.
But that's like the yesterday narrative, right? Because these variants are showing up and the vaccine doesn't work for them, allegedly.
Well, most of them they're saying they do. Like, they're either going to have to say at some point the vaccine doesn't work and we're going to have social distancing and masks forever, or they're going to have to say the vaccine does work and we don't need social distancing and masks. If it's going to say we're going to change every time there's a variant that we're going to need a new vaccine, then I think we have to just move along with life. And, if you don't want to go to a restaurant because you're afraid you're going to get sick, don't go.
Well, we talked about that last week is if you feel healthy or why we locking up healthy young people willing to work.
You have to give credit to restaurants for, putting more money out of pocket to put plastic
dividers.
I don't know if you guys talked about this before.
Yeah, we did last week with the restaurant that got called out when they have more plexiglass than the Saddle Dome.
Yeah. No, we have a situation, I guess you talked about already, about potentially bringing legal action against a big restaurant chain for not taking the proper procedure.
And I think they've took more procedure than anybody else.
And that's just scary as a small business owner when you have to take more out-of-pocket expenses to make sure everyone's safe, and things fall between the cracks all the time. Right? Mm-hmm. We make decisions as small businesses. We do in the best interest of people's safety, but things happen. People get sick, people get ill, and if you are legally liable for that, on top of being legally liable for all the people that you employ, and then some.
But at what point does it become personal responsibility?
That's a good point.
Like we talked about this before. If you have an employee who's not comfortable working, whether they're 70 years old or 20 years old, that was the person who should have gotten their CERB. Anybody else who wants to go to work should have been able to go to work. Yeah. At a certain point, we have to take responsibility for our lives. Yeah. And if everything's pulled away from you, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, a certain pro sports league had special permission to buck all the rules and policies, right? Before the trade deadline. Great, it's good for the entertainment. And I'm guessing it's based on the merit that they can prove that they're safe, where we know there's outbreaks happening, but they got the special permission. And so a year into this, I'd like to see, we talked about accountability from the government, so unless they can show the threat to society, right, because restaurants are open, why are they closing? That's the simple question. You're shutting people down in their livelihoods, which obviously the bottom line matters. If there's no threat, there's a perceived threat. We keep talking about the modeling, and they keep using the worst case modeling, which has not come true in a year, and they're still applying the worst case modeling. We're going to end up with 2,000 cases a day, and it's just this narrative that everything is hell and high water. The worst thing is going to happen, but the worst thing never happens.
So do you think maybe they should just give us worst, middle, and best?
Well, they did that at the beginning.
And even the
At the
best was still not as bad as
we
what
still
happened.
haven't gotten to
okay.
it. But they did give us at the very beginning of it, and we all go back to this. At the very beginning, they had no idea what they were getting into, and they're grabbing numbers, pulling numbers out
I
of
think
the
we're
air.
still in that.
I think we are too, and that's part of the problem. We talked about this earlier, is that nobody is willing to say we were wrong, or we screwed that up. We're going to go in this direction, or we're going to go in this direction. They just keep selling us that this is it, this is it, this is it.
Is it a bunch of old Italian men running this? They never admit they're wrong.
I've heard similar conversations before COVID at Italian clubs across Canada.
So Tony is another Italian. He has PizzaFace. He grew up
way.
in Windsor,
yeah,
right?
unless this is not a visual.
I would have never guessed.
Italian.
I would have never guessed you guys were brothers.
Yeah, so I put a thing out saying, hey, any restaurant owners want to come on the show? Tony came right away. And then Dan's in the industry. He was a restaurant owner. Now he's selling some beer, some great beer from inner city.
And it's good. Like I think that like in coming in here, just on the ride here, I thought about like where's the we can still like where's the positive spin in this, and meaning that I think that this is pretty big as a pandemic for a year now, but I think as business owners of any small business, gyms or restaurants, you get thrown things at you all the time, whether it's pandemics or new laws and new restrictions. And so the way that we adapt to those things, kind of indicative of like how our future will be. The important part, I guess, is like as a restaurant, doing takeout, adapting, finding creative ways and cocktail kits, and from our perspective, and it's been different with PizzaFace because we're born out of COVID and we're a takeout delivery, so we've been blessed to be busy. But it's like, how do you keep relevant and sound relevant? So when the world opens up, that
You start a podcast.
yeah, when the world opens up, like SS 106 still on people's mind. They're like, I went there when they opened. I supported when they had pasta, and I went there. I listened to Dom rant while you served me for cocktails. But I think this is one of the businesses that will thrive when things open because you made a point to stay relevant. And I'm talking about you because you're here, but also because when I look at the other places, I'm like, the ones that did complain heavily and may still be doing, I personally don't think I will go back to. Because I know the effort that my friends have put in who went to work because they have to pay people who need the money, who have families, who are getting their, are immigrants or are, that need the work or are providing to the family. So people that went to work because they know that they have the responsibility of many people behind them. And we don't know. The news is coming in, and the stats.
If only Trudeau thought like that. Eh?
Yeah, I agree. And then the news is coming in quickly and changing quickly. And I feel the government, for the first time, well, not the first time, I won't quote that, but is getting the information like we are, and is giving us the information like we are in real time. And so I think they should be up to us to criticize them for their decisions.
But do we have a parent-child relationship with the government? That's what's interesting. Like, parents don't always know best, but they're the parents.
Yeah.
The government doesn't necessarily know best, but it's the government. We're individual adults.
If
They're supposed to be free people. How come, if they don't know best, then why are they dictating?
if somebody tells me something and they're wrong one time, okay, the second time, how many times, where does the trust level come? Like, if they're saying this, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, this is all about flattening the curve, then it's about hospitalizations, now it's about the variant, like the goalposts move all the time. It's just be straight up. Why didn't they tell us a year ago? Yeah, this is going to be a year, but maybe they didn't know. I get it, but every time it changes. It's just, how do you have that trust of accountability? Like, if I make a big mistake and I say something stupid on this podcast, I could lose the podcast.
You can edit it out too.
Edit it. But
It's been done.
But I could lose.
What do you mean?
No, but it's as a small business owner. Let's just explain to people maybe watching or listening. Now it's been over a year. So now this is our third lockdown. So and we're in Alberta, so it's actually better than some other places. So as a restaurant, in a year, you weren't allowed to run properly once in a year. Not once. With the fear of the media. So even when we're open, there's still people. You can see when the cases go up, the restaurant goes slow. Mm-hmm. Remember when we went to Paper Lantern and she was like, why isn't it busy? Because the cases were up last week.
Announcement came out.
Announcement came up. Cases were up.
Yep.
Variants. So we didn't run for a year properly. Okay. We don't have a year. Then we have 2.5 months of lockdown. 2 months of lockdown. And now what's this going to be? So in a year, and then you got to look at Montreal. Like, I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they love government subsidies, but they've been shut down like since September, the restaurants, I think, right? Like, just from the outside, just
They
understand.
love transfer payments, similar.
So from the outside, just think this.
the digs.
Not anymore.
I love Montreal to go visit, but I don't think I could
Hey,
live there.
with those silver linings, right?
But like, it's just understand from the outside that this isn't just like, okay, these guys just want to have parties in their restaurant. And yeah, well, when there's parties in my restaurant and people are drinking, I'm making money. And I'm actually, my job wasn't to do, like, I like giving people food. I love giving people good product. But the passion of me is people leave here happy. They leave here in a good time. So not having events, not having birthdays. Some of these people, it's fucked up. I know this sounds crazy, but they will not visit their family at a house because it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll sit 2 tables over, a table over, and sit in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. The
But you're
government
not-
has a
but
control.
you're not breaking the law.
But you're not breaking the law, but you're still, like, I don't get it, man. Like,
You know, we go back to what Tony said about supporting people and going through these times, doing takeout and stuff like that. The only issue I have with all of this, I went out a lot. Still, I've been going out a lot since it's been open again, but the experience is different. And how long do we go with people phoning and getting takeout and, you know, stopping in and curbside pickup before, because there's no experience for that. Like, you're doing that to try to support friends or trying to support businesses, but how long do people keep doing that? Like, are we going to be doing this in a year?
Do you think I'm under the belief that when things do open eventually, that some people will have developed staying in habits?
yeah.
And it won't. And I believe there will be this thing called the Roaring Twenties that
Yeah.
people talk about.
We have a problem with that, though.
Yeah, because after that,
What happened after the Roaring Twenties?
Yeah.
It was the Great Depression.
Yeah, so let's have a long-term
We
perspective.
might skip the roaring part, man.
Yeah, we're there. But I think there's people that will develop this habits. So a business now, I think that opens now or that has survived will have still a great portion of takeout.
See, but the problem is now you're raising your prices because everything's so tough right now, inflation. Then you have people that use skip the dishes because people don't want to. So you use skip the dishes. That takes 25% of that. So now everything's getting inflated. I'm going to get a plate of pasta for $40 at my house. That's ridiculous. That comes to the point where you don't even want to go to restaurants anymore, right?
And then on top of that, you don't have the experience. So how long are people going to keep doing that?
Like in the end, people can say whatever you want. Yes, there's a lot of people that tell me, oh, open takeout, like takeout's good. Yes, that's a good business where you're moving product, you're making money. But for me, when there's people in the seats, I'm making money. And it's
Well, business is about margins, so I'm sure your margins get affected dramatically.
especially with like
No,
skip.
I've talked to a lot of business owners who are like, my brand is where you come in and dine.
yeah,
Like,
especially in a
that's
bar
who
setting. Right?
is-
experience. Yeah.
And most of it, and I get that. I understand that is the case, and we have to assume that this isn't forever. And,
Well, we hope,
And you doing
No, it
everything
won't be.
It's just the power of like some people to survive is pretty remarkable.
It is. Oh yeah.
You know,
and there's
like-
people doing great things. There are.
Yeah.
It's just we thought when we had this. What's the path to reopening or whatever? What did they call it when they started this?
What, with flatten the curve stuff?
No. When they started back a month and a half, 2
I don't know,
months
stage
ago.
1, stage 2. They
Stage
said
one,
we're never
stage
going to
two.
go back, and then they go 3 stages
Well, no, but
back
it was the path
without
to,
the right hospitalization.
path to recovery or path to reopening or whatever like the case was. Is that they told us that. Then the very next week they changed the goalposts a little bit, and I get it. Maybe they're fine tuning it, but I think you've got to have this figured out at a certain point, or just say we don't know.
I think Jason Kenney, I don't care. I'm a conservative. I tell people he's spineless. He has no spine. I'm sorry to say. Like, you don't come on TV on Thursday telling us, listen, you guys follow the rules over the weekend.
Pleading with you.
Please, we won't lock, saying we can do this together. We're in this together. Then Tuesday comes and he goes, wow, you guys didn't follow the rules. Come on, from Easter, the cases aren't even known yet. It takes 4 or 5 days for the incubation period.
Did you believe that on Thursday that we wouldn't be closed today?
I
hoped.
Hope is
If
one-
I believe what they told us before about hospitalizations, about how many people in the
that's
hospital.
what I'm saying about moving
But
it
now
to
they're always
1%.
assuming. And today he said it's not modeling. Guys, it's not modeling. The other stuff was modeling. We fucked up. This is just by the numbers. What the fuck's the difference? I'm sorry to say my language, but what's the difference between the modeling and these are the numbers we're looking at? Is that not modeling?
Yeah.
Is there a difference? I like. Don't play with us. We're on the ground. You keep kicking us. Keep kicking us. Keep kicking us. How many times do you get kicked before you say, you know what, I'm done, man?
There's definitely this belief that, like, you know, there's always a saying, like, either lead or get out the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing the part of both. Right?
I think he's talking out of both sides.
He's
of his mouth.
talking.
He's trying to
talk
to both
he's
sides.
Talking to restaurant. He's on the pipe with restaurant owners all the time and promising one thing and then promising another. And so when I read that on Thursday, I'm like, he just bought us a weekend. I knew
He bought
that.
Easter.
But you guys remember this. The
What a bet
NDP
on it.
wanted us closed how many times? So you can. I'm not sticking up for Jason Kenney here. But if maybe the NDP wouldn't have shut us down, but just because Jason Kenney's in power, they want us shut down because it's political.
You just
You'd
take,
be
if
shut
you're
down.
the opposition, you have to take the opposition.
That's exactly
approach.
it. Yeah.
The
Sad.
cycle we're in, it's pretty obvious. Like it is sad because when will this end? I mean, I'm worried about these variants, but basically what happens is we get shut down for 2 months, the numbers go down. We open for 2 months, the numbers go up.
Yeah.
They
So
shut us
what's
down
the
again.
end game? What's the end game?
Exactly. Yeah. So
I don't know.
No, but people
That's
that believe
the-
in
that is the
lockdowns,
correct
when you
answer.
ask somebody that wants lockdowns, if you ask anyone lockdown, what's the end game? Vaccines, this, that. So, but what, you want to lock yourself up for 2-3 years? I can't.
No.
Like, I'm just going to tell you a story about my son. So my son was in Mexico, living normal. Everything was good, around people, kids all the time. He comes here, he's isolated for 2 weeks in quarantine. 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks. And he's like, when he sees people, he freaks out. And that's 2 weeks. Then, of course, he's getting out of it. Now he's coming back to normal. But these kids that were isolated for a year, that's normal. They're going to be okay. I don't know. Maybe they'll get out of it, but it's not good to isolate
You hope
people,
they're-
especially young kids, man.
hope
How are
they're
they going to be
resilient.
antisocial? Like,
Well, you hope they're resilient and you hope that they find their way back. But
We're in uncharted.
I'm worried about old
territory,
kids.
right? Like we
Yeah.
don't know. Like just like the government doesn't know what to do, we don't know what to do, and
you
they're
know
just
how
trying-
geologically we can track eras, like when a volcano erupted because of the layer in
Yeah.
the earth. So there's going to be a layer, a generation of people,
Yeah.
just different.
Yeah, man. And if the things were to go normal, quote unquote normal, which is like there's like life isn't linear, things change. Kids would be different to begin with in general, but yeah, it's going to play an effect to who we are now. But you know, I think before these cameras were on, we were chatting a bit about the differences we made in our life because of COVID. The things we had to look inward for, the things I've had to look inward for, and it could start from.
Well, do you remember the question you asked me?
What was that? Clearly, I
It was
didn't.
about so like with
I'm worried.
with all the doom and gloom,
Yeah.
right? All the external factors that we have zero control of.
Yes.
Do you
I
remember?
now. You can go,
well, one of you
can say
should say it.
it. The only thing we control.
Yeah. So what can we control, right? And I was like, well, it's going inside.
Our
That's all we
attitude.
have. The external environment got taken away from us, which is crazy. But we still have ourselves, right? We have our minds and our bodies to some extent. And
but but when is it time that we all say, fuck this, enough's enough?
Well,
But
my
it starts-
When's the time?
You can do it if you
okay,
want.
so
But do it by myself. I'm done.
To
We
play-
need a collection of people.
to play devil's advocate, though, right? Like, Kumo's under fire like crazy in New York because troops coming out, they padded his numbers, and like a lot of
Is
people
he?
died.
The media doesn't really attack him because
Well,
they're slowly starting.
they're
to.
slowly
yeah,
turning on
it
him.
started, but
They'll
like
attack
a lot of
DeSantis for
people,
opening his.
a lot of people died, right, because of COVID and his the nature of his reaction.
the
So,
grand plan, yeah.
in Jason Kenney's shoes, which we had this as a sidebar, who really wants to be a politician? Anybody up for election? You gotta ask yourself why. But you're the premier of Alberta right now, right? And you got a huge chunk of the population that wants to stay open. I assume it's a smaller population that wants to close, but I really don't know. I mean, a lot of people I know want to stay open. Almost everybody.
Well,
I know.
even that poll on CTV was more people didn't want to
a
lock
lot
down.
of these polls, people want to stay open, but
2/3 to 1/3.
if he's
yeah.
like, whatever, screw it, we stay open, and then our number spiked to 2,000, 3,000, whatever, and then like literally all the worst case modeling does come true, because the one thing is, every time the numbers get to a certain threshold, they shut us down, and then we don't get the worst case. But what if, right? Hypothetically, the number just keeps going up, and then the hospitalizations all go up. Like, would you want that blood on your hands?
So-
and I think that's
That-
where
that's
it
a
got
good-
super
that's a
sticky.
good perspective.
Yeah, okay, here's another perspective. Italy has had the harshest lockdowns in the world, and they have one of the most deadliest countries per capita. Yeah, they have an older population. So What happened? Did you guys see that game in Texas? 40,000 people and
Well,
people
and-
like no masks.
Well-
Oh yeah, but it's now what? But Texas has been open for a month without
It's
masks.
a month now.
Glad
and
you
their
brought them up, 'cause
their
that's where I was
numbers
gonna
are
go
still
next.
their numbers are
Right, so-
trending down.
And Florida just never shut down.
Florida never really shut down. Right?
They don't know.
Mexico, and then people look at Mexico and they might look at it, but you got to look at populations too per capita. So like we said, per capita, Canada's doing way better when it comes to deaths. But I also think we have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. Free healthcare systems, and not if it's private,
You know,
right?
there's going to be so many things when we look back at this 20
Free
years
rebate.
from now. Like they're saying now, there's a bunch of reports going around saying that the highest mortality rates are in countries that have the highest obesity rate. So is that a tie? Is that the most important?
Comorbidities,
But
right?
is that the most important one though? Like, if they can tie that to that, because it's higher than heart disease, it's higher than all these other things.
Yeah. I hate to harp on more conversations that we had before this was recorded, but another one we were talking about, just as we're getting to know each other, was it goes back to what you do during COVID. And so I've taken a more approach to trying to better my health and eating habits and my mental health. But nothing is ever discussed with Henshaw. And I'm not like everyone. That's a very hard job to get on here every day and tell people how many people have died. But there's never been an approach to
For wellness.
for fucking wellness, for fucking taking care of your body,
Now that you
and
say,
for fitness,
Yeah,
and for
and-
being better, and for eating
You
better.
want to talk about hypocrisy? I spent a lot of time in the mountains. They closed the trails last year.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember that. And then when they opened the
that,
trails,
yeah.
they wouldn't open the parking lots anywhere as close
You
to
couldn't
them.
park on
you,
the
you had
road.
to hike 3 kilometers in to get to the trailhead.
It's insane. Like, what are you trying to do to us? If they close the trails again this year,
so what happens if they every day she came on TV and she said, okay, so we have 4 people die of COVID. We had 2 suicides today. We had 4 people die of heart
Exactly.
disease. 7 people die of cancer. Because COVID's not on the top. I think it's
No,
number
but
9.
I don't think like.
I
to-
think we
to
would all
harp-
be-
to
it would
on
be
the
horrible.
point that we're talking about. Is
I
it
feel
wouldn't
bad
be
for everybody
horrible.
else dying for everything else.
100%.
They have to say, hey, Canada, part of us needs to be outside and go out more. We're not putting restrictions on you being active, but I don't know if the words people say in politics makes a difference. Again, something we talk about, words are just words. But if you're going to say words, just say get outside.
So
Well, no, but the messaging matters.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, apparently there was an insurrection in the States because of a tweet. So
That's true.
So-
so Q tells us, QAnon tells us to go get working out. We probably might.
like now, let you guys say this. What was I gonna say? Sorry. Oh man, I'm lost. This has been
This
such
has been a
I'm
long
so
day for
tired
you.
Right now. It's
Hey,
been
take
stressful.
COVID fatigue on
Yeah,
that.
take a long second before you.
Yeah, you need a drink, Chase.
No, but now that here's some more aqua at the end. So now that you guys talk about no, that we're locked up, right? So there's gonna be another lockdown. You think people aren't gonna have house parties and shit? You guys don't think that?
Sure they will.
You don't think people are still gonna get together?
Yeah, we're going underground like it's the dirty 30s, right?
So
like,
Prohibition.
most people,
Prohibition,
everyone that's
yeah.
not been following the rules is still not gonna follow the rules. Nothing's gonna change. And yes, okay, maybe there's a spread in a restaurant, but how many times are restaurants actually busy? Restaurants, if my restaurant during these times was at 100% capacity with the restrictions, I would be loving life. But it's not like that.
Well, I know
It's
that.
not like that. So this is another thing. I was thinking about this today. So say like there's 3 tables of 4 or 3 tables of 3 because they're not in the same household, whatever. And they're sitting different tables with dividers. And then at the end of the night, they go, what are you guys doing? Let's go. And then they go across the street, get liquor. They go to a house party, those 3 tables. When AHS calls them after they test positive for COVID, do they say, they don't say I was at a house party because they're scared. That's illegal. They'll say I was at SS 106. I was at, I don't want to say other restaurants because they're going to think, but I'm just giving
Subway.
you an example. I was at Subway. I was at McDonald's. I was at Home Depot. But they're not going to admit they're at a house party.
I agree. I'm also curious. How many times in a shift do you think of something? You're like, I gotta put that in the podcast.
It's got a little notepad.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had a whole week of where I couldn't sleep that good.
I get
Like
it.
I dream about this shit. Like I don't dream about dying or I'm going to die. That's not really dreams, nightmares.
I'm gonna try my best to be the perspective person, but like, I'm assuming that your son was born in 2020.
Yeah, when the hospitals were dead, VIP, free parking. It was the most. That's Italian. I got free parking when my son.
And they're healthy.
It was the eeriest shit that I've ever seen at that hospital.
That's crazy. Like, that's scary. And I guess in unknown times. But your kid's healthy, your wife's healthy.
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%.
I know you guys had a hard time getting back.
No, it's okay. It's okay. In one way, it was better that my son got to enjoy the times. Now they're back and they're in a lockdown.
Yeah, people,
Once they're out of quarantine, they're back in a lockdown.
you hope people are resilient. You hope that people
Welcome to the
find
free
their
world.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is this general statement, and it could be it's a personal attack or a government attack against your business. It's like, you can't control what the government's going to do. We can hold them accountable, which I'm more than willing to talk about that.
So we kind of touched on this in the
Yeah.
past, but I mean, how could you have a government that you didn't elect make decisions that you don't want? And not as an individual, as a populace. Like, there's a whole region of the nation that doesn't want any part of this.
But it's the same system we've had for 150 years, though. It doesn't mean it's fair. It doesn't mean that we like it. But it's the way the government's been elected.
I just I'm all for pointing out the issue, but I'm
I think it's
a big
crappy.
proponent of how do we make it better then?
But
And
across-
I like to call out for restaurants and stuff like that, but it takes always somebody with balls to do it first, because everyone's like, hey, I'm going to wait till SS 106 does it.
So
And then I'm gonna do
when
it.
has the government had this much power before?
All right.
We didn't
Quote.
leave. I don't know,
FLQ
it was
crisis.
World War One and Two, and I don't
Oh
know.
no, they invoked martial law during the FLQ crisis?
Yeah, I
But only in Quebec.
I gotta read a quote. I can't credit it to anybody because it's just one of these internet memes that show up. But
Well, it must be true.
pretty powerful. Well, so it just starts off coronavirus, and just like that, the government controls all sporting events, concerts, jobs, colleges, medical facilities, whether or not you can leave your house, has depleted resources such as toilet paper, water, and food, and controls all travel. And you guys wonder why they use viruses to scare the public. They now control you and everything about your life. See how easy that was? Mass panic, hysteria, complete control of literally the entire world over a virus, one with survival rates that are extremely high. All freedom was eliminated virtually overnight. See how easy that was? I mean,
Well,
Just don't
well,
disconnect.
how can you disconnect when you can't even see somebody
no,
in
but it's
person?
the control of the government. That's the catch, right?
Yeah.
And we got to remember, the things that have been happening
Yeah.
in the history. You got to go back to the past. I'm always going to reference 1984. That book meant a lot to me the first time I read it, which might have been
Everyone
in 1984.
should read it.
But
yeah.
it's powerful.
It hasn't
and,
changed.
And yeah, it's scary stuff. And governments have literally taken liberty of the people, right? Like, even just look at things like tax. Where did income tax come from, right? It was an effort
just-
to raise capital during the war.
After the war,
Never went away.
It was
you
just
know?
supposed to be for a few years
And
until we got
it's-
out of the war.
Exactly.
Debt.
So every time a little bit of our freedoms are taken away in the name of the good, they never come back.
Well, look, even during
never come back.
Look at during this last year. So first there was the lockdowns. Then they gave us freedom over the summer. AHS was never around. They just said, you have to have dividers, but open up patios. Then they come 10 o'clock close. Then this. Now closed again. It's like every time they give us a little bit, they give it back. They take away, and then they give us less back. Like you just said. I know this is over a year, but you're saying in general. But then now that you say this, because government, but this is like one of those things that everyone puts on their story. But questioning and doubting what's going on these days does not make you anti anything, nor does it make you a conspiracy theorist. Actually, questioning is and should be a place of reason. The fact that questioning has become taboo should in fact send a chill up someone's spine. Well, it's the same thing with all this censorship. Why can't I have a voice? Like, look at that guy. I posted something the other day. I posted positive stuff on social media about how beautiful this city is, how beautiful Alberta is. And the guy says, he goes off about our government and then goes, if you lose your business, don't blame COVID or the government. Blame yourself for being vocal on social media. Blame myself for being vocal, so I'm not allowed to talk. I'm like, buddy, you can talk, I can talk. And my government, even if I disagree with them, is also your government. So why, it's just, people, I don't get people's mentalities, man.
I don't want to name all the institutions, but since I was a kid, it never made sense to me why you can't question certain institutions, right? And then there's a quote. I'm going to paraphrase it, but lies never want to be scrutinized, and the truth never minds being challenged, right? So anytime questioning an authority or questioning an opinion becomes a threat, that alone is it's a point of skepticism. Like, what's really happening there, right? Like, why?
Well, we've talked about it before, though, and I think this is where your disconnecting would be a good thing, is that there's lots of friends I have that we have great discussions and we're on opposite sides of things and we talk about it, and maybe we change somebody's mind, maybe we don't, maybe they change our mind, maybe they don't, maybe we agree that we're right where we started, but we talked about, but we don't call each other names. We don't, try to beat you down or try to denigrate your
Don't throw
position.
mud, exactly.
Yeah, but so much of what you see now is that, including in the media, like the media attacks. There is a left and a right side. There's really not a lot of media that falls, oh, I don't know, maybe this, maybe
if
that.
we get 10,000 views on this podcast, we're gonna need security.
But why does the media have to be left and right? Why can't the media just be?
There's
You,
no
they,
views.
you get the news.
Because they've
Yeah,
become
no views in the
infotainment.
middle.
They're not reporting the news anymore. Well, they are, but they're reporting it because
But you're not getting like a
But-
part.
you are getting a part. This is what we said. We always use America as the example because everyone knows. In the States, you're a Fox person or you're a CNN person.
Right.
And those people rarely listen to the other side. They rarely want to hear.
But that's fully partisan news, right?
It is. Yeah.
Was it like that 30 years ago, 20 years ago? I never watched.
I
Really
think less so.
It felt different. Larry King felt different. Wolf Blitzer is
Well,
like
those-
still in the news. He's still on CNN today, and I swear he's different reporter
You
than
see,
he
though, I
was
think-
20 years ago.
I think he was part of when it started, the sensationalization of news. Do you remember the original, what was it, Desert Storm, the original
Yeah,
Gulf
that's,
War?
That's what I remember about CNN initially.
That's what made CNN, was those guys hiding in a hotel room watching.
And now you got
it's a good conversation.
Now you got
I think
what's-
CNN was made by like the OJ trial and things that went on.
I think they were already started.
Yeah,
yeah.
but when they
Yeah, I
when
agree.
they noticed
Yeah.
like their news, their
Real-time news.
changing of the news.
Yep.
Now you got to listen
When
to
that
Fredo.
when that trial was over, they were like, "What do we cover next?" Because if you can't see that the manipulation or the way, I hate the word manipulation, but the way that they show you the news is moved more towards like a plot, like a show.
Yeah, the
Some of the
narrative,
things that they write, you can't even write.
But But I was going to say, do you assume somebody's writing that plot? They're not reporting on
No,
something.
they just look at the, they look at their like they look at their like this sells and this doesn't sell.
No, but
and
you've
so
seen
it
the
goes.
video montage
Blood leads.
where they mash up like local news,
Yeah.
right?
It's all the same- they're
Newscasts
saying the same
from,
shit.
Like, there's like 100 of them on the screen,
they're saying the
it's,
same
it's
exact
almost
same-
verbatim. Like
Yep. Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that every side has a narrative, and the story, you mold the story to fit the
remember
narrative.
that whole
when you
follow
write
the
it.
money?
Mhm.
All the news stations in all of America.
What did we say
How
last
many
week?
people? How many people own them?
It was like
96
people
companies
or
own 90% of the media. And you got guys like Fredo, Chris Cuomo, and Don Lemon off.
You name two of them are Italian.
I don't care what you are. But there you go. You could be Italian.
Italians are the most. How come it's an Italian in politics?
But
But always
oh,
corrupt.
no,
Well,
but listen.
Giuliani.
He's the only one under
No,
investigation.
but I'm not afraid to put Italians down. I'm not afraid to put Canadians down. I'm not afraid to put whatever you are down. It's just if you're shit, you're shit, man. Like, why does everything have to be divided with what your race is? Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
get into race and shit, but if you're good at what you do, you're good at what you do, man. If you work hard, you work hard.
We should
Like-
get into race on that one front though, like the labels. The
Yeah,
labels are not helping anything.
The labels don't help.
No.
It's just as endless. We're just trying to look for 10 million points of differentiation, and yet we want to work together. It makes no sense.
It can make you go mad, and you realize you're going to call it as it is, whether they're whatever culture they are, and then you look at all of it, and you're like, if I didn't listen, would I be happier?
No, but we talk
Like, if
about
I
this.
didn't
Like,
do that, if
But
I
are
didn't
you are
have
you
to-
are you blissfully unaware though? Is
Are
the
you
problem,
blissfully?
right?
There's so many people who are blissfully unaware
Yeah.
that are just content with not listening to that, and I respect that.
I heard it.
But
But
then
really
does-
awesome take though. Like they say, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So, if you jump off a cliff without a parachute, when you're falling, it's gonna feel
You're
like
ignorant,
you're flying.
yeah.
Right? It's gonna feel like you're flying. It's great. It's gonna come to a
When you
abrupt
land.
end.
Yeah.
eventually.
We won't know though.
Well, no, but you know what? You will
You
for a
don't know
split
that.
second. You will. Yeah.
Yeah,
What,
it's
what's the
alright.
last thing that goes through a bug's mind when it hits your windshield?
Yeah,
It's ass.
Divide that by the time they were flying free.
I think that Canada is very diverse, and we talk about Calgary being diverse, and like, I don't know if we talked about this. We probably talked about this before, but like when I
Put
was
down
young,
your differences, people.
but like honestly, I think that we need to be more patriotic. Like
I agree.
I think that I was raised by my parents, but my parents, they said I was Italian, but they pushed me to not speak Italian at home, which now, after I had to learn more on my own, my grandparents spoke because they wanted me to integrate into society. They wanted me to become Canadian. My dad had to give up his citizenship to become Canadian. A lot of people say, what kind of man? But if you ask my dad what made his life what it is Canada. So, like, I think that it's good that we have diversity. Diversity is beautiful, this country. But we need to learn to love this country. We need to learn. You need to, and Americans are,
But
they're
do we need
messed
to
up,
love
but a
this
kind of
country,
Americans
or
are
do we
like
just
that.
need
They're
to
learning.
love the world, though. Like, I think we're getting to the point. I
Yeah.
kind of disagree with the patriot thing because it's not helping. Like, if you love Canada so much, so then do you let immigrants in? It starts to get sticky fast.
Yeah,
like,
of course, but
man,
you
the
have to.
world-
But if you come to this country,
You know,
like,
a human birthright is the earth. Like, fundamentally, that's
Yeah,
Look
like,
at
you
every-
can't
if
live
you
with
look-
it.
I
There's no
hope that
wor-
we can look at everyone here and say that like we are the second generation.
yeah, I'm a first, but
Yeah.
I think I'm third.
no, but the only
Yeah,
way
still.
the only way you're gonna get rid of all this separating people and dividing people is why do you have to say like, okay, you're Canadian, I'm Canadian, you're Canadian, I'm Canadian. We're all Canadian. Yeah, our roots are different, but we're all Canadian, so we are the same. We have something in common. Why do we have to say, okay, you're Canadian, you're black, I'm
yeah, no, okay,
I'm,
on
so
that front, I agree.
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Is I'm not saying yes, like we have to stop dividing people, and I don't want to talk about race. I don't want to get into this because I'm the least racist person. But then with all this shit going on in the world, I just think that they're segregating us, they're spreading us out, they're wanting us to be divided. Why can't
Yeah,
So
divide and conquer.
instead of saying that we're all different, yes, we are different. That's the beauty of Canada, but we're also the same
But
because we're Canadian.
Why are you afraid of talking about race?
Well, because sometimes it gets so like people get so into like I don't know.
You know, we were talking earlier about
It's-
if you say something, we were talking earlier about news clips that get
Yeah.
clipped and cut a certain way to portray something in a certain thing.
Yeah,
If you
of
listen to the
course.
whole clip, it's
Right.
a different story. But I think that, you know, we've talked this before. I'm a big believer that there's a very small percentage of people over here, a very small percentage of people over here.
Most
of the
people are in the middle.
are just living their lives
We
and
call
doing
it
their
bell
thing.
curve, right? Is that what we say?
Yeah,
Right.
but it's
Charles
it's a
Barkley
very
said it the other day. Did you
big
see
one.
that?
He did. Yeah. No.
He said, but there's really good white people, there's really good black people, and there's some
sorry.
shitty people too.
No,
right?
but-
Are we
But
talking
see,
about
but the labels
Charles
again,
Barkley,
they're
the basketball
just really
player?
good people. Like, just really good people.
Yeah.
You know?
But he said that it's more like he said it doesn't matter if you're on the left or right.
Are we
they're
talking about
divided.
Charles Barkley from the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're saying
This is like who you're getting your political.
No, he said something.
Wasn't he a
No.
senator?
I just want to verify that we're
No, but he said something like it's the politicians, it's the politics that are dividing people. We all.
I agree.
Well, Morgan
Like,
Freeman has that video,
Morgan
right?
Freeman says,
He's
"Stop
just
talking
like,
about
yeah,
it. We're all the
stop
same."
talking
I
about
know
it.
people say, "Well, how do you not talk about it?" I get it, but like,
Wasn't Barkley a senator or something?
I just like Morgan Freeman and Charles
What's he gonna
Barkley in
run
the
for?
same sentence. Because when Morgan Freeman talks, I listen.
well, because that's
Charles-
what he does.
That's because he's the narrator in your whole life.
Fucking movie.
Voice in your head.
When you tell your own
If
story,
it's
it's in his
Morgan
voice.
Freeman doing Charles Barkley.
Okay, can you guys tell me how old Morgan Freeman is? Because I swear he's been 80 for the last 40 years.
Well, we had a guy in here one
You-
night,
you know
remember,
about-
who told us that he's actually Jimi Hendrix.
See,
that
that's why
Jimi Hendrix
conspiracy
never
theories
died.
That's
get-
amazing.
That's why
These
I-
are the conspiracy theories.
Oh, it was-
related to
listen,
this
it was
podcast.
the
it's
best.
okay to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but these guys, the problem is when you go down that rabbit hole, some people go way too far, and it discredits everything.
I think he's the
That
age,
discredits-
I think he's the age that he got out of prison in the Shawshank. That age, like just before he.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But even another guy that's all about.
He's
Yeah.
got to be in his early 80s, I'm guessing.
Have you guys seen Denzel talk
Late
too?
70s. Yeah.
Denzel's like, come on, man. Like, it all starts from the family. It starts at home. And we talk about this.
But you know what?
Sometimes you have a shitty upbringing, but we need to try the best to raise our kids and start. We talked about it. Don't be a victim young. Say, you're not a victim. We have to stop that victim mentality
Yeah, I
because
think
you're not.
we should, in a sense, listen to those actors of any color that are at the later years of their life that are reflective on what it is. They also have the ability to be like, we made it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's I take it with a grain of salt.
But it's also the celebrities that are telling us about science now. So don't follow doctors. Listen to celebrities. So
Yeah,
sometimes it's
I
hard.
know,
I know. I'm trying to take the positive out of
But
celebrities.
that's,
right?
that's all part of like unplugging, right? Because there's so much noise. There's just all these messages thrown at us, thrown at us, thrown at us. What are you supposed to believe?
Well,
That's the biggest challenge I have in this society. What
Actually,
do you believe?
strangely enough, it brings us back to Charles Barkley. Do you remember when he was still playing and people were talking about he wasn't a good role model?
Right.
And he goes, I'm a basketball
Yeah.
player. I'm not
That
a
was
role
Michael
model.
Jordan, though. He said the same thing.
Yeah.
He refused to have political commentary, and they were like, "Why don't you speak up on this?" He's like, "I play basketball,
Yeah.
and I win championships." Not Michael Jackson.
But how do we know Michael Jackson was a bad person? I don't actually think he touched kids,
But what
man.
do we- but
why
what
is
do we
why are
even
all these
know?
kids? I don't know. What do we know? What do we know as the truth? Now this is conspiracy. So now one person labels him as this, man. I don't know. Like, I think Michael Jackson was used, to be honest. He was used.
How do you think half the world feels about
I don't.
Western leaders?
I'm not going to agree with you that Michael
Most of the
Jackson.
world
We don't know if Michael Jackson
The
did what
majority
he
of the
did or
world
didn't.
doesn't like him.
Do we know if Michael Jackson did it or not?
No, I'm not going to agree that he had a messed up childhood that led him to do what he had.
But
to do.
did he do what he did? Why did
I-
Macaulay Culkin come on and said he never touched me?
That's up to him, and I'm going to have to go with like the belief. My personal. If you guys don't believe that, I'm okay with your belief too.
Yeah, but
But I don't believe enough people come out and say that. And then you look at his. If you.
I think we
look
need to get rid of
psycholo-
beliefs personally.
Yeah, psychologically.
Honestly,
yeah,
like
okay.
if you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know.
Who
There's,
cares?
there's
You
facts
just
and
don't
there's
know.
not facts, yeah.
I guess if he didn't touch you personally, then you can't say anything. Is that how we?
You know, you were talking how far back do you go? And this is something we talked about. You said in Germany there's no statues of Hitler. Why do we have statues of people here? And you said they were tried in Germany after the war. There were trials. The difference is the time frame. They weren't tried in Germany last year. They were tried in Germany right after the war, and that went through it. So do we go back and do we
No,
try
but-
do we try society from 150 or 200
you can't
years
because
ago?
the rules were different. I get
Exactly.
that. But
And-
you have to say the truth. That's my take.
Oh, I agree.
We got to just stop spinning it a certain way.
Oh, I
And
agree.
we're like Canada's starting. It's a
I,
good thing.
And,
but
and I don't think that I don't think that most people think that life back then was some guy showed up on a boat, they made friends. People knew it was a violent time and things were done terribly. And it went, like you said, residential schools went right up until what, the 80s? 86.
60s.
No, I think that the last one closed in Alberta in the 80s.
oh, well, yeah.
I want to say like 86 or
I
something
think
like
we
that.
have to
but-
try to move forward together, right? I know it
No,
sounds
I
kind of
agree we
cheesy,
do, but this is what you were saying, like how far back, like at a certain point, I think we do have to recognize what happened and what was done, but we also have to
And
recognize.
my comment only is that you can only move forward as a person if you admit, even if you admitted what you did before was wrong.
Right, but yeah,
And that's
exactly.
the problem with people.
If you
But
look at the micro, like if you look at an individual, like if you've got serious problems, how do you fix them? You have to go back. Think about it. You go to the fringe. You got to go back to your childhood, and you got to correct that problem to make it move forward. So society, this is where society's hung up, and that's kind of where
But
so
there's
most
a-
of the challenges lie, right?
there's a lot of people that said I didn't do anything wrong, so why am I getting attacked too?
that's
right?
the problem.
No,
You
and
gotta-
I understand
Right?
what you're
Like,
saying.
I
about
get
that.
what
I
you're
do.
saying, but
Yeah.
a lot of people are like I didn't do anything wrong. I've been a good human being all my life. I didn't have a. I don't want to go. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do anything. It was
But-
my great grandparents. Why do I have to
But
take
what-
the blame for them? Right?
But what blame is being assigned? I don't think it's a blame game. It's not a blame game.
You're just saying.
No, it's acknowledging the facts.
There's no blame.
Thank
I'm not
you.
trying to blame anybody for anything, really.
It's acknowledging the
Past
facts.
is the past. People are in their graves.
100.
They're
But that's why I
blame
think
a
we
dead
need,
man, like,
we need to try to live in the present and try to move together.
right, but to move
Right.
forward, we gotta. There's loose ends in the past, and the loose ends are. I think it's in acknowledging, like the transgressions. Effectively, you're just acknowledging them. Right?
Acknowledge.
and
Yes,
You have to
but if
acknowledge
my
it.
if
not,
my
not to assign blame, but
No,
I
of
know what
course,
you're
but if
saying.
my
healing. It's about healing.
Yeah.
but if my great uncle was a piece of shit and he treated your great aunt like a piece of shit, that's like me and you
I know,
are
but
not that
I'm not,
are not
I'm
at
not
that
mad
level.
at you about that.
No,
but
and I know what you're saying. But now here's the question. We go back
You're
to
not,
like,
but a lot of people are mad.
I don't. I've never met anybody who's pissed off like on a direct line to the past.
There's a lot of people that seem pretty pissed off about shit nowadays. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
you're pissed off about shit. Like,
I think we, when anybody talks in like
I love you, Tom.
in a forum like this, they're able to like grab the extremes of people, and we often are talking about the extremes of everybody.
that's that 10% at each end.
Yeah.
That's
at
the
each
thing.
end,
That's
and
what's
then-
screwing up the. We talked about the political parties in the bell curve
Yeah.
too, right?
Yes.
Forget about Barkley, but we're all centrists, right? Really, 90% of us would lie in the middle of the curve, but
Yes.
the left and the right have both started to stretch in these extreme.
Well, or are they stretching, or are they
to
just
the
louder?
periphery.
Are they just louder and they're better
No,
at
the
using?
values, weird things are happening, man. In politics, it got weirder.
But we said the same thing. Okay, like earlier we
but,
said
but is it still that 10% though?
maybe
Like
less.
let's say
Well, no,
it's
but
10% at each end.
We don't have any choices anymore.
Do you think the middle's
You have a
disappearing?
prime minister of very low approval rating right now, who's likely to win the next election. Why is that?
Because he gives away money. I don't know.
Because there's
I
no
think it's-
competition.
I was just going to say.
Well, we talked about this. Conservatives are the worst marketers. They don't know how to market their party.
Yeah, but you don't,
Aaron O'Toole.
there isn't like a president or a leader of a country that usually gets overturned in times of war or
No.
in times of crisis, right? You stay with what you know for the time
Well,
being.
Trump got bounced out of there. I mean,
Yeah, but that wasn't. This was like.
it's COVID, right? Clean in the middle of
He's,
COVID.
the reason
Careful-
why
careful
he
what you
got,
say,
but
this
the-
thing will
the-
get
he's-
flagged on social
Trump's the anomaly to everything, though.
He is.
So if I given Trump, okay, so if I go
But
back
not-
to
but
if I
not
go
really,
back to
'cause
Bush, who was a terrible
The
leader.
British have a there's a bunch of populist leaders all over the place right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you have Trump. You have Bush the second, who was a terrible leader, but during like an actual war,
9/11.
9/11, an actual crisis, like he was there twice because they went with you go out of the guy who's going to take you, or they believe they get you the fear to get you through.
I think it also depends how the economy's doing.
And
too.
Trump, to be honest, he as like him or
The American economy's
or
good.
hate him,
Oh, I know. I think this
like
one was
him
an
or
odd
hate
one.
him, he did not lose by much. Is the interesting thing, and so
Yeah, Biden got more votes than Obama. Yeah.
the conspiracy.
yeah, and like I'm not going to tell you where I stand on that, but it's pretty clear. I don't think he's a good.
We're not American. Doesn't matter.
He doesn't. He's not a good.
We got a Canadian election.
Not
Who you
my
voted
pig,
for?
not my pig, not my farm. Yeah.
I sit.
Oh, we got a municipal election coming too.
Oh, they had some good news today, huh? Did you guys hear the good news? Nenshi will not be running for mayor. Oh, too bad.
Okay,
man.
so this is
It's
brought up.
bittersweet.
This is brought
It
up
is.
today.
I don't hate you, Nenshi, but you went sour, man.
Name
I
a
voted for him the
politician
first
you
time.
like, though.
Absolutely, I love them.
Oliver.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about.
No,
the
a lot of people
politicians
like
I
him, and I think it depends which camp you come from, who you like and who you don't like.
Yeah, but
I
he got demoted.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And that speaks to kind of the culture we're going on with. You were mentioning it earlier.
He speaks up a lot. That's
this
why.
guy busts his tail, right? And he's very creative and very ingenuitive to like come up with all these ways to make the business thrive, and is effectively punished for it.
Yeah.
And it's like even our leaders, like
You go back not
Pierre
too,
is the most known politician in the Conservative caucus.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a,
And he got demoted because he's the most known politician in the Conservative caucus.
It makes you think.
Now, the one thing I did notice about him is kind of a one-trick pony. Like it's yes or no, asking his question, question.
That's fair, but
but it works.
But give me a straight
I'm
answer.
I don't call him prime minister, but still, he
No,
got demoted. It's
agreed.
just
yeah, no.
But you guys think that they comment on things that even no matter what side of the spectrum or what side of the political spectrum we are,
spectrum.
that we don't even disagree with, because
Agreed.
they'll
Yeah.
flat out say that they're going to go revert and say that they want to abandon abortion.
It's not going to happen.
But I know, but like
No.
we can all agree that that's a common human
it
right.
shouldn't even be.
No, but they're doing that to get votes. They're doing
That's
that to
what
say
I'm
the
saying,
right is
but
crazy.
They're doing that,
But that's what populism is.
But that
Yes.
the party leaders who are saying that are also doing it because they know that there's a large fraction of the population that want to, and that vote that believe the same thing, and so we could disagree on most things, left or right, but we're probably on the same things when it comes to human rights and to gay marriage and to things that should, when you think about them and when history shows back on it, will just be common things that happen.
But okay, to the point. So we'll go and we'll have the politicians stretch us on points of division, right? Controversial topics like that.
Yeah.
Yet our government of all stripes support these aggressive regimes around the world. Like
Yeah.
it's really weird stuff. We have some really
That's
interesting
true.
business relationships
Yeah.
with some really interesting partners internationally, but locally, like at home, we're going to bring up these issues and create division. You see what's happening? Like it's that whole line: believe half of what you see and nothing that you hear. Because you ever watch a sporting event in its entirety and then watch the highlights? They can spin it any which way they want.
Oh, because they
A
can
game-
show only the shots on one
exactly.
side.
I
Right?
never thought about
and like
that.
they've been doing it forever. It doesn't matter what the sport does. Whatever you're watching, they can just make the game
Have
look
you
like it
noticed,
had a
like-
different flow. And as a little child, I saw that, and it started getting me thinking. As a grown man, I realized, why does that stop at sport? Just leave that open.
That's a great thing, because even sports got better with it over the years. Like highlights from the 90s, sport was like, this goal happened, that goal happened. And then as in the 2000s now,
narratives showed up.
there was narratives, there's a little bit of comical humor into it. There was who was in the crowd, kind of like a build-up of a game that was really boring.
or a plot built
Wow.
for.
I think
this-
I'm having
this
an
guy hates
epiphany.
it with a different
Okay,
with a different viewpoint.
So
Yeah.
who has the most power when it comes to Netflix? Who has the most power when it comes to media? Who has the most power when it comes to sports? Which side of the spectrum?
In what?
But that's, remember,
It's the left that's controlling everything. You guys can say whatever you want, but the left is controlling everything. In sports,
Well, it depends on the viewpoint you look at.
I don't think left and right exists in the halls of power, man. I think that
Oh.
that splits
I hope so.
for the masses.
Well,
it's bullshit for the masses.
so like even I don't think they should be moving the people. I don't care anymore, but I don't think they should be moving the major league the All-Star game.
Oh, from Atlanta.
That's actually
yeah.
affecting the black community. There's a lot of black people that could benefit from.
I was listening to
It's
a
a
guy
lot of
talking
money. I
about.
can't remember what the tens of millions
It's
of dollars.
Yeah.
ridiculous,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're going to a state. Don't they already have voter
They have almost
ID
the
laws there anyway?
Yeah, they have almost the exact
Same, like
laws,
it's just
yeah.
it's becoming so political.
So
that,
then the question comes in: are they doing it for money? Are they making more money by moving it?
yeah, but they're making people think that, oh my God,
No, I get it.
Georgia Republicans are racist.
There was a
this and that.
guy brought up the thing that Coca-Cola came out and said same sort of thing. They're not
Stop
standing-
drinking Coca-Cola or
no,
Pepsi.
No. But they said we're not going to stand for this attack on voting rights and that sort of thing. That it's wrong. You don't need ID. You shouldn't need ID to vote because it's racist to need ID.
You know,
you know-
Coke made a lot of money
Do you know what you did?
selling to both sides of World War II, eh?
Sure, they did. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fanta
No,
came from somewhere.
that's right. Yes.
There's a whole story there.
I've watched a documentary,
Right.
a little documentary. on it. But my point is, you
The
need
banks, don't they make
no,
both
but
money from
you
wars,
need
both
ID.
sides from war?
You need ID to go to the Coca-Cola AGM. If Delta, they came out and said, this is wrong. We're standing up for voters' rights. We think all of these things. So somebody said, well, if I show up for a flight and I don't have photo ID, can I fly? No, you have to have ID to fly. But they say you shouldn't have to have ID to vote. So where's the line drawn? What's more important?
Well, if you're American Airlines, my son got on with the fake name, so
That's like I said, I don't trust that kid.
I don't know. That's a
No,
good
but-
question. I don't know if we can just spew something out and not necessarily have the facts, but I'll go with what you're saying.
No,
And
but that's
I think that
no. But a big
they're
thing is voter
fighting-
ID.
Yeah, they're fighting for a bigger cause.
The third lockdown.
And I want to mention something that I don't know just because I want to mention it because it's been on my brain because I saw a picture of it the other day. It was a picture of my dad playing cards and I was on his lap and he was smoking a cigarette and he had a bunch of peaches in a glass of homemade wine and he was feeding me one of these peaches. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I it's fond to me and I don't know if that's a thing that will
They'd
ever
lock
be.
him up today.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things in there that like could definitely affect me, but it's
only if a neighbor talked.
it flows so true to me. And as an Italian kid, I don't know if Dom, you've ever been this, like families go visit other families. And I remember my brother and I used to go visit with my dad, and we used to go to Italians love hanging out in the basement. They never lit. The first floor is covered in the furniture's covered in plastic, right? So you hang on the basement because the furniture's only if the Pope still over.
There's
we're
still
s-
Italians like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. This is when I was a kid.
Maybe in Windsor, I don't know. You
No,
guys
I
are
didn't.
little
Say, I
greasy.
didn't say there was. I said when I was a kid. There were.
Yeah,
like
no, even here, I know.
Yeah. So we sat.
But when you go back to Windsor, is it still like
I
that?
think it's an empty.
I don't
You guys
know.
have that plastic that went on the carpet.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
though.
The
man,
runners, yeah.
I fell asleep in the summer on my grandma's couch. My face was stuck to the
to it.
plastic.
I don't want to
But
bring
we
it to
go,
you. It's
we
not
go
just
visit.
Italians.
My brother and I, full of energy, as young kids, wanted to go out, and my dad's like, "No, I can't keep an eye on you outside. Stay downstairs." And we used to watch him and his kumare, like his paisan, smoking, and they would smoke a pack each and drink and tell stories while me and my brother watched. And the only joy I had was this friend of my dad's would smoke the cigarette without ashing it out.
Oh, all
So
the way
we'd
to the
smoke
end.
it all
Yeah,
the
we'd
way to
see
the
it
end. I'd see it full to the end. I'm like, I can't imagine putting my niece or nephew through that now. Like, but I can't tell you I'm better because of it. But I can tell you that I'm still here.
Yeah, no.
And so there is like some things of sentimental value of a childhood that I miss, that the world isn't a certain way. I think equality is a huge thing. I think we are.
Can you imagine now, like,
I can't. That's the thing.
you can't, your dad can't even have friends
I
over.
can't even imagine my
You
dad
wouldn't
running.
have had the paisan with the
can't-
cigarette falling off. It'd just be your dad.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine my dad running a restaurant the certain way he did and how honest he was with his employees.
So-
I don't think that he could do it then.
Now that you say that, so people come here very poor, right? Not everyone came here was poor, but a lot of people came in the 50s with less.
Nobody comes to SS poor. What are you talking about?
They leave.
They leave.
Poor, yeah, take it easy. So a lot of people, when you talk about the 50s and 60s, they came here with not much,
Yeah.
and they got to that middle class level, right? Like it was different. Now I feel like we're almost starting to do a reverse, and I always talk about this is like,
But the inflation, right? It's been like
But
30,
what-
40 years that inflation's been outpacing
but now the
living wage, like wages.
But the government's trying to make us equal. We wanted to be equal because back then they said, I'm going to bring myself out of poverty. I'm going to be equal.
Okay.
Now the
what,
government's
though?
telling us, oh, we want to make you equal. No, man.
No, but I think that there's still that place for hard work, and there's still that place for drive.
Well, if it
There's
keeps
this
going the way it
restaurant- no,
is,
but
I
there's
don't
this
know,
restaurant
man.
here,
Look
you
what's
did it.
going on right now.
I know a guy who started a pizza place,
I
and-
like your perspective on that.
Because
though, right?
in the end,
But
it
you don't
pushed
think
you.
there's still the opportunity there?
Listen,
There is
on the
opportunity.
Still,
agenda.
of course.
On the agenda is universal basic income.
Yeah.
So how do you demotivate the people to the point that you just want to stay home and take
But
the
I-
check that they give you?
No, but this is now that you mentioned that. But I thought that was only a conspiracy.
no,
Oh,
that's
no,
on
that's
the agenda.
been
No,
a
but I
big
thought that
plan,
was a
yeah.
conspiracy because
No,
any
no, no,
time
no,
you
no.
talk like this, it's a conspiracy, and then like,
No, that you Google that right now.
no, I know, but that's I'm being sarcastic.
No, but-
because they even said that the third wave was going to be called COVID-21. I do not want to believe this shit.
Okay,
'Cause
there's,
I'm like,
there's
no.
conspiracies, and then there's governments taking advantage of a situation.
Yes, of course,
I
but
don't
Ne-
think,
never waste a
no,
good
I don't think
opportunity.
9/11 was a conspiracy, but I believe that the government took advantage of the situation.
Yes. Different departments and stuff.
So if you work in the private sector, you get caught doing drugs, most of the times you lose your job.
Yes.
Right? In the public sector, they take you to therapy, they take you for this. I'm not saying what's better or not, but you can really be shitty
Oh yeah, no.
in the
that's-
public sector,
and that's where I
you
think
can-
we go back to
and you
unions
can
have-
stay because the unions protect you. Which I'm not saying we shouldn't help each other, but in the private sector, if you do something shitty
You're
or you
done.
make one mistake, you're done.
Yep.
Right.
But- and I
if you own
agree.
your own business, it's even worse. You make
But
one
that's-
mistake, you lose everything.
That's where I agree. Where we're saying that they have too much power, but I think that the other side of that coin is how do we do these collective bargaining agreements or something without the union? Like, is everybody an association that doesn't have the tooth of a union? Like, you can still be fired if you get caught with drugs. You can still do these things, but that the jobs are based on we're going to pay first-year firefighter.
But
this
you know,
much.
like
Yeah,
without
exactly.
a union, you
Yeah.
can't fire.
That's what I'm
If
saying.
somebody has example, if somebody has a drug addiction, you can't fire them.
No.
No, you
not
can't.
even because
No.
they're a union.
No.
Just be
No, yeah, even in the
Canadian
private
citizen.
sector.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
What if they're a contractor?
They'll study the counseling.
Well,
No, you
depends.
choose-
The
you
private.
choose your-
No, I
if the
agree.
guy's addicted to drugs, but he's stealing from you, how do you know now he's a thief? I don't know. Where do you?
I guess I
It
understand
depends
that
on how
there's-
small the private
I,
sector
I
is.
think
right?
that unions are something from a bygone era.
I agree.
I think is what it is, and from the time when you had like 11-year-old kids building boats or working.
But
in
I like, you know,
mines.
I like that because I like to say that.
11-year-old kids
No, I
working
like
in
to
the
say that
mines?
out loud. That they are of
True
the
restaurant
bygone
guy.
era, because that is something that will divide this country. And if you're from southwestern Ontario and there's the big three, and if
Yeah,
my
auto
family's
industry, yeah.
listening to this, they may not be happy with me saying that, but that's something that is true to my belief,
Yeah.
to my understanding of what I've witnessed, is that as a business owner, I don't see the value for the employee of having a union, not for the employer.
Oh, you know what? I
You're
was
paying into something that the Canadian government protects you for the most part.
from the time I was about 16 or 17 until I was, I think, 20. I worked for a union, and you know what? I thought it was great at the time because 17-year-old kid, and I'm making, and this is a long time ago, I'm making $23 an hour. Like, I was losing more on tax on a check than any of my friends were making.
Yeah, and if you're from Windsor, Ontario, it pushed you not to go to university.
Sure.
Because you were like, they actually started making it like a post-secondary requirement to work the line at Chrysler. Because other than that, you had a crapshoot and you made more than most people with a
Yeah.
university education. And I'm not saying that you had no less value in your work, but
But what's
It
wrong
was-
with that? You know?
that's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. I have to think about that. What is wrong with that?
What's wrong with
I think-
saying that it doesn't?
I think that you can.
Or requiring
like,
it.
like wages. Like why does a degree have to dictate your wage?
I agree with that sentiment, but I also agree that you have to work hard for an X amount of money.
Or
I
do
had
you,
an interesting take. You don't get paid for what you can do. You get paid for how hard it is to replace you.
Well, then in that case, as a line worker,
those could be
anybody
two
can
sides
do
of the same coin, too, though.
that. Yeah, because you can get replaced by anybody.
If you're really good at something and you
Well,
work hard,
Yes and no. I mean, I've
You're
never
hard
been
to
in one of those
replace.
plants in my life. I'm sure I could learn, but could learn a lot of things. So
I don't know, but I don't know if I agree with that statement.
I think to a degree you can. Like, I learned to cook in a restaurant. I'd never done a day in my life.
I think the
But
And I
was,
was-
your cooking good though?
I was pretty
I
serviceable.
think the people that would do that job actually are a public service to people because they have to do the same thing over and over.
Oh,
again.
it's not
It's-
interesting exactly. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
no.
not discouraging that, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm okay with that salary, but I'm not okay with the way that they get it. A
The way
of it
that
goes
it's
back,
derived.
goes back to the union,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
union dues, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
the union tells them what they can and cannot do.
So
And
but that's why
then-
capitalism's so good, because you can't. Obviously, the company's making money.
Well,
for sure, but we've lost businesses. We lost Toyota coming to Ontario. We lost a lot of them because.
But it is a union. The
Because
union's
to-
more of a
No,
a socialist
it's not-
mentality.
Yeah.
But okay.
The-
So
the-
do you believe in minimum wage? Because now, like, you're losing it. Why? Not because the workers aren't good, but because they can go to a different country
Yeah.
where there are no standards, and
You
Go
make-
from the bottom.
No, you make a good point.
that's what's causing
This is
that.
why I'm here at this podcast. I
No, like
Oh, that's the only way you learn.
I believe skip the dishes. I believe in capitalism. So skip the dishes. They have the right to do what they're doing. But right now, with all this government control, we're not allowed to open. Skip the dishes is doing better. Does that make
Sure
sense?
they are. Oh, it's
So,
it's
but
like-
I believe that skip the dishes can run however they want.
Huh.
But this is as a business to say I don't fucking need skip the
as
dishes.
an oil man, Tesla's doing better. It's the same stuff.
So I guess so I'm confused. So like I want to touch back on this because now I feel compelled. So I guess university or money that you put into your education, it doesn't really matter. So if somebody who doesn't finish high school makes $35 an hour, and then you finish 4 or 5 or 6 years university, and you make less.
But the time you spent 6 years in university,
Yeah.
that guy was working his way up to $35 an hour.
And that's all I wanted to hear.
That's what that is.
Like, I'm
And
trying to
so-
figure
I
it
agree
out.
with
I'm
that,
trying to process it myself, to be honest, because I was taught, and now I'm having an epiphany, that like because you went to university, you now have more value.
And I think that's
Well, I think
slowly
that's how
gonna
we
get
were
worse
all-
and worse.
Skills are
No,
what
it's
matter.
actually going to go the other way.
Right.
They're thinking.
You think people that
they're
need-
saying that education is in for a major overhaul because they said that,
Yeah.
and I think it's actually going to be a bad thing because we're going to have less well-rounded people. But they're saying if you're going to be a physicist, you're only going to take courses to make you a physicist. You're not going to study history. You're not going to study language. You're not going to study those things,
But,
and it's
but
going
there's
to
a
become
point though,
fine-tuned.
because student debts and Lacoste University
It's crazy,
through the
yeah.
roof. So
Especially
like, why,
in the States,
why
yeah.
make the physicists take humanities when they want to be a physicist?
So like when
why
we
make them take
Because
humanities?
if you go back far enough in education, people were educated to be citizens.
It's the follow the money thing again.
so like when
The root of all evil.
I signed up for my son's.
That's why we can't have
Well, you know
nice
what? And
things.
you know what? If you are good at something, you can go program video games and never have finished school if you're good enough.
So
at it.
I was paying for. We set up this.
How many entrepreneurs don't. Sorry, how many entrepreneurs don't finish school?
This one.
Like a lot of them though. Zuckerberg, these guys, like the smartest of the smart.
Oh, he's higher than
They
me.
don't have to finish. They don't finish university. They jump out. They start their companies.
Oh, didn't Bill Gates quit school? Did
That's,
he?
All of them.
but he's the
All
best
of them.
doctor in the world. So I was.
I know you were waiting for that one.
So I was. We signed up this bank account.
That Bill
For-
Gates,
with
Bill
the-
Gates,
with the chip.
MD.
He's giving us the chip.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Oh, now you go.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Don't get him
So
started.
anyway, so I never said that Bill Gates is gonna put a chip in us, but all I'm
But
so
it was implied.
There's a long shot. Hey, Bill Gates, if you're listening,
we're
not-
fuck yourself. So then, anyways, a lady came to the house to talk about, or came to the restaurant we met
Just
about.
wait. Just build a computer that doesn't get viruses first. Before
Well,
you worry
no,
about
he
me.
built the virus, then he built the antivirus. So I'm not gonna talk anymore.
Okay.
So anyways, the conspiracy. Okay, so anyways, this lady came to the restaurant for
Yes.
my son's bank account. So if you put money in, I forgot what it's called,
RESP.
and then the city, the government matches it,
it's a
right?
good
To a
program.
certain point.
Yeah, it's
it
good.
is.
So then she goes, you know, Antonio, when he's done school, we really hope he goes to university. And then like me, I'm like, you know what? If he goes, he goes. If he doesn't go, he doesn't go. And she's like, what do you mean? Your son has to go to university. Like, give me this whole spiel. I'm like, listen, lady, I'm not saying that people that are educated, because there's people making more money without university
Agreed.
degrees. Like, I'm not saying that's not bad
But
to go
that's
to
all-
university.
That's all
many
part of it,
people
though.
have-
We've just equated it like, oh, if you get university, you have to make more money. And it's education has a value in and of itself, period. Like we're talking about. Like that's hence being well-rounded and being articulate and having all these different skills. Like it's really important to have an educated society. I mean,
However, though, you can go to a
and
tech
a
school.
broad educated
A
society.
tech school's
You,
great.
you can go to
Yeah,
a tech
no,
school,
you
learn
can
to
go
be
to
an
tech
aircraft mechanic, and.
But what
have
I'm
a great
saying
life,
is,
too.
we've associated higher learning with monetary compensation.
Yes,
And
yes.
the two don't quite relate. They don't quite relate.
But I think that's
how much
struggling
school do
now
you need?
too, though.
Look at the people who make the most money in the world.
I agree. Yeah.
It's entertainers, and by entertainers I mean athletes,
Yeah.
But what is,
actresses.
But the system teaches you to go to school.
But
The
they- but then
system,
they also
the
put-
system brainwashes you to go to school. I'm not saying my son has to go to school. He has to get educated. But they teach you a system. They don't teach you, listen, you're going to go to school and we're going to teach you how to pay your taxes. We're going to teach you how to get a mortgage. We're going to teach you how to be successful. What do they teach you? How to be a police officer. They teach you how to do public sector jobs. They don't teach you to work in the private sector.
They teach you how to service the machine called
But
society.
I
They
think
teach you how to be just another person, another number, another
plug in
robot.
the wheel, yeah.
They don't teach you to be something special. Something
Have you guys
special doesn't
ever
come
had-
from
Have you
school.
had this when you work at a business or doing it? And you talk to someone from the bank on the phone, and I've had this applying for a small business loan, and everything is like over the phone is very easy, and you romance what you do, and then they're like, I want to help you with your envision and your excitement, and they send you an email of what they need, and after the conversation, I'm just like, all right, my response is like, my jaw's dropped. Can you call me back? Can we go line by line on all you need? It's like on the phone, it's like this, they believe in what you want, but then that
Show
other
'em the
world
numbers,
hits, that
yeah.
bank world hits,
Yeah.
where it's like they start speaking another language to you, and it's like, I'm not even I'm looking at it, and I'm hoping I'm looking at it from a perspective that is somewhat capable of looking at it and saying that, like, I'm kind of lost. No, I'm extremely lost.
Sure.
And I'm reading it several times over.
Hell,
And so
yeah.
you're right. There's this part of this, like, financial corporate world that, like, doesn't, not dumb it down by any means, but, like, will talk one way to you in your life. And then when it comes to, like, emails are the worst things in the world, I find, for communicating. Like, I think, like, once we started communicating with each other by email, we destroyed any kind of positive energy at all, you know? And so I feel like that's the way the world works. It's like, you need to get things into ones and zeros.
Yeah.
And your passion's one thing, but if you can put your passion into ones and zeros,
If it doesn't fit on the form, though,
it doesn't fit on the
count.
form,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it doesn't fit. So there was like literally somebody for entrepreneurs who's like, okay, take my words and passion and put them into ones and zeros.
write a program
So
for
that,
it.
because like the bank speaks a different language than you do, and so what we're facing is that, like, the machine speaks a different language than we do, right?
Yeah.
We're talking one language, we're talking human, we're talking about people, but they don't speak that same language, right?
See, going back to what you were saying about going to university, I think that might be, like, from my generation, like when my parents were saying, everybody who was a doctor or a lawyer, and those were the people that were rich. There weren't necessarily, like, there were big business people, but they weren't necessarily, there wasn't Facebook, there weren't those things. And that was the ticket. If you became a lawyer, you became a doctor, you were going to be rich.
Yeah, like my grandparents. My grandparents would talk to me.
They would
like,
think the same thing.
my
yeah.
grandparents would be like, what are you doing for work? What are you doing? Oh, you don't want to work in a bank? You don't want to be a teacher? You don't? And I started listening to all these jobs. I'm like, this is what society wants me to be.
But
It's like, but they're giving you these jobs. Like, if you wear a suit, you make money. Get the fuck out of here. You could be wearing coveralls making more money than the guy wearing a suit.
But I think that's changing, though. I think that view that, you have to do one of those
Well, it's
careers.
changing now because
But-
that middle class is fading away. So it's
Well, no, but you were talking about how to be on the line. You have to have a degree to be on the line now. Is that because we're having so many people that have degrees and we're running out of jobs for them?
well, and
No,
And does that devalue the degree? Like this?
I never thought of it from the other perspective. Like, why can't they? Why shouldn't they make that much?
Yeah.
I think that
It's a
Where's the
it's
entitlement,
it's a
though?
fucking shitty job.
Where's the entitlement? Like,
Yeah.
regardless, your employee showing up on your first day. All you have is your integrity, your work ethic, and your skills. Does it matter how you got them? Literally. So because I went to Harvard, but this guy, he came from the streets, works harder, and is smarter.
Who
You
can put
deserve
the
the job. You deserve more money because you went to Harvard. Like, you have to compete for that, right? You literally have to compete for the job, and it comes down to your performance in the job. And so, yeah, you're gonna have an advantage, possibly, but not necessarily.
Yeah, and I think in life is just generally how you take advantage of those advantages anyways, right? So if you worked hard to go to university, then can you perform in the job too? And like everyone says, like, you can get an introduction to somebody or something, but it's how you perform after that.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely.
it's actually cool to be Italian right now, isn't it?
Sure.
I think it's always been. But
No, I heard that actually. Now that we joke about this, no, but when my aunts and uncles came, my aunt
it
is
wasn't.
Caterina. She calls herself Sue. My uncle was Luigi. He called himself Lou
yeah.
because they don't want to be called They didn't want to have that Italian stigma in
But
the
the
50s
Irish
and
and the
60s.
Italians, yeah, you guys
Yeah.
have
Everyone had
a rough
yeah.
time.
Well, I didn't have anything rough. My life's been
I don't
good.
know if you could say that because
No, but you showed up way after,
Yeah.
right?
But my
I was
argument
born in
about-
Calgary, Alberta,
Yeah.
General
My
Hospital.
argument- Yeah, same here, Calgary General.
Oh, you were born in Calgary? And
Yeah.
your parents moved to Windsor after?
Yeah.
No Pier 21 for you or whatever.
No, they weren't from Halifax. But the thing is, like, when we argue with that, because there's been an argument about, okay, so some people have been, and not nobody in this room, but have been like, okay, my grandparents went through a lot, as like, you know, as Asians went through a lot, or as blacks in America and Canada have been through a lot. But with Italians, it was one generation. One generation maybe suffered a little bit.
Then you made Columbus Day, introduced pizza, and boom, bada bing, bada boom.
I thought pizza was invented in Greece. Oh, that's another.
But like their argument is that they suffered or had some setback by one generation, and then every generation after.
Better marketing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better marketing. It's also there was also during 9/11 this influx of hatred towards Middle Eastern people. There's also the difference of like most of my friends I grew up with were from like Lebanese and Arabic countries, and it's the religion too, right? Like if we moved here and we're Italian, we're still Catholic Italian, right? We're still Irish Italian, and so it was the change of like religion that put a divide
But
towards
yeah,
a lot of us.
it's like one of the original labels.
Yeah.
Religion goes back older than the black and white goes back. Like it's ancient, right?
But even in
Biblical.
Italy, Italy's dividedly by region. And if you're Northern Italian, you're Southern, where it's like they literally call us Southern Africans or Northern Africans, and then the Italians say, "Oh, you guys are Southern German." Like there's this thing where there's a stigma where they don't like each other. It's weird, man. And then
But how,
there's even customers here. This old Italian guy, like he's not racist, but he kind of is.
Yeah, but that's the same
Every time
everywhere.
he comes in here,
it's
he's
in
like,
Canada, we were talking. East and
People
West.
complain about
It's this
Quebec
weird-
here, and they're complaining about the West.
no, but
it's-
it literally he
But
thinks
hey,
he
when
considers
but when
this
the
one guy
Missouri
from.
win, you're all on the same team.
No, they still. I don't know. This one guy comes in here. I swear to God, he comes in here, and he just like we joke a bit, but sometimes the guy is like actually really serious. Like you guys aren't Italian. You guys aren't Italian. Oh, the South. You guys are farmers. Oh, you're Turkish people, and he always calls me like Turkish. Okay, what's wrong with Turkish people? Stop calling me Turkish. Like, well, because a lot of those places were, I don't know much about history, but you know that Sicily, Calabria were conquered many times, right? We're mixed. We're a mixed race.
The whole
We're-
world over. Like you asked me a question.
That's what I mean. How far back do you go?
How far back
There
do you
you
go?
go, like-
If you go back far enough, who's where?
We're all the same,
Exactly.
baby.
It's a circle of life.
Wasn't there a song, "The Circle of Life"?
Yeah, just trying to.
At least
It's R. Kelly.
the circle life wasn't sung by a pedophile. So I can
Allegedly.
I let my nieces and nephews listen to that.
Hey,
Well,
elite pedophile rings have become a thing. All right.
Yeah, hey, I'm the owner of a pizzeria, and I have to tell people all the time that we don't have a basement.
Or
It's PizzaFace, not PizzaGate.
Yeah. There's no basement in this pizzeria.
I didn't even put it together. I got it.
There's no ping pong, right?
Gotta wait.
You guys got no ping pong in the basement?
Just like this.
I think every conspiracy
The new
has
Jack
some
Ruby.
kind of truth to it, and then it gets hijacked. Like anything.
You know what? Every good conspiracy has just enough to make you think, maybe.
It's
Yeah,
like
but there's
every good
probably
lie.
there's truth in there, man. There's truth.
sure
You're not
there
gonna
is, yeah.
start nothing off no truth at all. There's something
Listen, they've
in
been
there.
talking about elite pedophile rings forever, and I just thought it was the craziest, most ridiculous thing.
And do you still?
Well, Epstein happened, man.
Totally true.
So what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, no,
But then
according,
is what happened to what's
I
going
think,
on
according,
with
I think
the
according to Q, he's still
Yeah, but
alive,
I-
isn't he?
like,
And so is
the
JFK
people-
Jr.
The people who are pedophiles in Epstein's ring, they look like them. But then he starts saying Tom Hanks. I'm like, I love that guy. Come on, Tom Hanks can't be a pedophile.
when Richie
Right,
Gervais
but
said that
yeah.
shit, he looked a little fucked
Straight
up, man. He looked straight
Hollywood,
fucked, man.
Hollywood's kind of it's
Yeah.
weird, man.
I'm
I
not
think-
saying
but
anything.
Would you
This
think
is
that
weird.
we could assume that like power does that to you, like people.
So,
like,
so Tom Hanks is okay, but Michael Jackson was a pedophile. There you go, right? So hey,
until we find out about Tom Hanks.
Unconscious bias. You see how this goes? Deep rabbit hole. man.
There's a
don't
chance.
go down that
There's a
rabbit
good
hole.
chance that Tom Hanks fucked the shit out of that Wilson, that volleyball. So we don't know. He was a lonely man on an island for several years. But I guess that's the thing. It's like you don't know until they tell you. So I agree with that statement. But it's like we look at it and then we kind of like what's going on now is like it happens, and then we get to like we as people get to look back and say, oh, I knew that, or oh, I could have saw that coming.
Imagine what your guys' kids will get to see in like 50 years
Yeah,
when they
well,
start
we need
and they
the
don't
damage on
redact
that.
it.
Do you think they'll watch this podcast?
No, but like
No.
like, Epstein took rich guys who wanted to sleep with young women. Is a difference, I think, than having like
No, it's a blackmail ring. It's deeper than that.
yeah, but can we say it's different than having a pedophile ring in the basement of pizzeria that doesn't have a basement?
Yeah.
Well, that's just creepy, man.
I don't know. Everything just seems really, really.
No, but unfortunately,
seems
some
weird.
people get caught in it, and
And
so this a few people have gone into that pizzeria that they tied Pizzagate into, and we're like attacking people or going in there accusing them and telling them. It's like, you know what? Some days they can switch it onto you and say that there's a ring in here, and you're just an independent business owner.
Right,
saying,
but exactly. So if that's true, then how do we know anything's true about any accusation made against anybody? And in the world of deep fakes, it's so slippery. I mean,
Especially if you're a celebrity, because anyone can sue anybody, right?
they can take you down. You can disagree with them and be like, "Screw you,"
yeah.
It's scary.
and then
man.
next thing you know, they blow you up.
Can we like?
I'm not saying I believe everybody's innocent. It's just
No,
I
but
don't
I also
know. I don't
believe
know
a lot
what
of
to
people
believe,
are fucking
and that's what
cuckoo.
I'll say. I don't know what to believe, and I'll say it as much. Like,
And I don't know if we ever will.
no, we don't
Then
get
we
to
can
know the
take
truth.
then we can take like what we see and then what we our own personal research and make our own conclusion. Is that what we're gonna
Yeah.
But even the articles that we're reading, even the research that we're doing,
Well, but
is it the right?
that's-
Are
So
they
this is
telling
where-
us the
This is where
truth?
education comes in so heavily, because your ability to have a discerning mind is a function of like what your mind is capable of and the skills it has. So, to be a true skeptic, you want to have some skills. You want to have some knowledge of a lot of a broad sense of ideas and interests, right? Like
You wanna
just
look at as
things.
much
You want to know. You
information.
want to know a lot of things, right? As much as you really can, and then apply your own mind to it. That's all there is. And that's, you talk about the future of unplugging. If you're gonna turn on Google, who's gonna have the answers?
Well, we found it before.
Oh, now
Exactly. You found them, but who had them before?
Yeah.
Skills were there,
And it's like
right?
It's
True
take- it's
skills of
taking the
navigating-
art.
True skills, like you have to go in the forest and know how to build tools,
Yeah.
know how to gather food, know how to build. You had to. These were personal skills. You couldn't find it anywhere else, and that's what it's coming back to. If you want to go again, the circle of life. We need those skills. We
I
need
think
the individual skills.
I think the biggest problem with Google is it's
I don't mean
taken
go get a
away
degree. I
it's
mean,
taken away
learn
the
some stuff.
ability to tell a bullshit story.
No, we
and
talked
be a
about
good-
that commercial with the two Italian guys lying, right? Remember?
Yeah, you
Be
can
a
be a,
Google. No, I know this happened. It happened 5 years ago, and then they go, no. I have Google.
But like, do you ever play that game of Wikipedia? Like, I look up things that I absolutely know on Wikipedia, and it's never lying to me. So it makes me trust the things I don't know when they show up.
But can I go into
But it's-
somebody's
it's
Wikipedia and
slippery.
change it? Isn't that how it works?
No, it has to. It's kind of peer edited.
it has to be. You have to be reasonable. You can't just go in
it
and
can
say
be changed
It can. Oh yeah.
and it can be reviewed as being incorrect.
So I can start a Wikipedia page
Or
for
peer
Dom
reviewed, yeah.
Spatafor?
Yeah, you can, and they'll actually even put a note in that this was changed, but it hasn't been.
Yeah, there's on the bottom.
verified.
Calm,
and stuff.
metaphor, calm, collected.
No, but I do that. I look up
6'2",
Tall.
Good looking.
Played for Team Canada soccer.
and then he just walked away because he loves the restaurant industry. And then the government just destroyed his restaurant, but he's gonna keep fighting.
Speaking of the restaurant industry, you're gonna have a grow the patio, big patio.
Yeah, hopefully the city approves it sooner. But all the bureaucracy, because you need
Did you-
AGLC, you need this, you need that. You need that.
You know, I think they were really good last time. I think they'll be good this time. I think
It
they'll-
still took at least a week or so to get it
yeah,
all set
yeah,
up. So
yeah. And they're
Can
gonna
you
be
get
close.
onto
week
the
is-
sidewalk?
what's that?
Can you go onto the sidewalk in the summer?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
where I applied. I applied a month ago.
And the story is from what I've heard, is that if you had it last year, it should be pretty much a
Yeah,
rubber
they're gonna
stamp
make
this
it
year.
easy.
And I hope that they
I guys
can.
want to talk about like a little bit about control that the AGLC has generally over our businesses,
Mhm.
but they can make a sweeping decision overnight. For what I know, for being a bar owner too, is like things we fought over. So like you may know laws about batching cocktails, about pre-bottling cocktails. Now that we were stuck in this position, they made decisions overnight that allowed us to make cocktail kits.
The people were fighting forever.
The people were fighting forever, and it's like they had their reasons. They had health reasons, they had public safety reasons, but they're able to make those sweeping decisions.
Well, that's what I said. I think that both them and AHS did a really good job when this first happened.
And I agree,
saying,
it's a really good job, but I think that's where
AHS did a really good job.
But it just leaves you
think, like, 'cause
questioning
that's part of
everything.
Like,
That's like I keep
and,
saying. Like,
But AHS had nothing to do with the patios.
Yeah.
AHS just comes in and says your divider needs to be 2 inches wider because COVID doesn't go in the air.
but for the
it's a
record,
divider.
part of why we enjoy all the freedoms and luxury of a country like this, especially a city like this, is all that bureaucracy. It kind of goes hand in hand because without that regulation, you end up with some weird, it just starts to kind of crumble at the seams.
Like, I hope they don't go back. The biggest one.
No,
is
I agree.
Like,
It's weird,
as a
actually.
liquor license owner, now you can
sell booze,
and that like may save
For to-go and
may
stuff,
made everyone some money or save some money, and I don't want them to revert. Like, when they change a law that hurts us, they never change it back. So if they change a law that affects us in the benefit, I hope they don't change.
I
it.
agree. I think it'll be hard to take away.
What you guys need is this is that what's it called? Like the collection of data, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to make your case based on the data, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna have to be on your own dime.
Well, we have to say, like, I think
like,
that they do things because they're worried about certain. So if no one is listening knows what we're talking about, there we could never batch a cocktail before in the restaurant business because they thought that it would elevate the alcohol level if we pre-made them, or what was it?
Or the part of it was that you'd be screwing the customer and you'd be
putting cheaper
you'd be putting.
Man, how many times do those girls short pour me at night? Oh, shake it on ice. Yeah, you gave me 4 shots. And there's supposed to be 5.
So
and
I want
then
everyone
she
to
took
know.
the extra $5.
I want everyone to know that Dom's still mad at Cowboys. 19,
No, not Cowboys, man.
2018. He
They
got
stole
ripped
a
off.
shot from him
Hey,
once.
he ordered 3 chilled shots.
No, it
they
wasn't
should have charged him.
Cowboys, it was
They
probably
should've-
National or something like that.
Nashville
No, I'm
North.
joking. No, it's happened
Let
many
it go,
times.
man.
He's
Let it
still,
go.
but honestly, it's 2021 and he's over
It's
it.
not actually no, but don't ever blame the business. It's actually the bartender.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. I didn't. I'm
It's
sorry.
the bartender because they
It
put that
was,
extra $5 in their pocket when they weigh the
What was her
bottle.
name? That do you know? We can just give her a shout out now.
No, but you're right. They did have some valid reasons why they were
But
away.
none of it.
But why did it
They
drag
changed
on
it.
so
and
long?
so I know this because I come again from Windsor, Ontario, that the city itself started making drastic changes to downtown. And my family is from Michigan and Detroit. We saw changes when the city went to shit.
In Detroit.
And both Windsor.
Oh, okay.
They both made changes to like patio laws, to things that they normally wouldn't do here. So during, and I know we're jumping around, but it makes sense. During like the oil times here, you couldn't get the city to make any changes because we were making money, people were paying the property tax. You don't have innovation in any business.
necessity drives, yeah.
Yeah. and
Mother
so
of invention, yeah.
it was wonderful to see these cities that are doing well now because they allowed small businesses to flourish.
There were no patios except for the Ship and Anchor open
Yeah.
before the main long weekend anywhere in the city.
Except for now.
And now I don't know what magic happened, but like
I hope they don't change
it's March, the sun shines. I'm pretty sure in February if the sun shined, the patios would be open.
And I hope that we don't change ever. I want in the summer 17 to be 2 lanes, one way each way.
Yeah.
And we allow businesses to do that forever.
I think it'd be
No,
great.
you're never.
No,
gonna-
I'd love it if they leave.
I
this
would love
street
it too,
blocked
but
off and
come
you get
on,
those
you're gonna
extra
make it
seats.
where businesses get to make money?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
but-
Are you fucking serious?
what happens?
Businesses
what
get to
happens-
make money.
What happens to cities is when their downtowns are empty.
We're
That's
out.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And why does
City of
why
Oz,
does
yeah.
Brooklyn flourish after being shitty for so many years?
So why
Because
doesn't the city say, you know
people
what?
move.
I'm
People
not
move.
downtown.
People move out of Toronto and move to Hamilton.
I'm not downtown.
and shit. They move to the places that allow for you to have more
They
freedom.
need to make parking free for the next couple months downtown, and they need to help
if
those
the city
businesses.
does that, then they're not going to have any income coming in.
No. Well, and the other problem with it is too, if parking's free, I'm just going to go put my car down there, walk around
Yeah,
all
but
day,
those
leave
poor
my car in one
businesses
spot, I'll
downtown, man, they're
go out, have some
struggling. There's
drinks.
nobody working
Oh, I
downtown
get it,
right now.
yeah. No, I
There's
get it.
nobody working downtown.
It depends on the spots, because 17th is lit.
It's been crazy the last little
Well,
while.
it
yeah.
won't be after Friday, but
No.
No, patios.
Well,
It
patios
still
will be.
Oh yeah, that's right. If it's not snowing.
But businesses will adapt, and you're like, okay, so maybe my patio doesn't have to be perfect. but just needs fucking tables.
I have this video I posted.
Get it
on-
open.
Like
Just
the
get
ship-
it open.
The ship's
I
always
posted
busy,
this-
just tables.
It's far from perfect.
I posted this video on Facebook before I went to Mexico. It was like in December, and then this Italian guy, like super Italian accent in New York, and all the staff
Yeah,
looked
he eats
Latino.
outside, I saw
Remember,
that.
he's sitting outside. He's like, "Hey, they fucking don't open us up. We have a dinner here."
Yeah.
You could tell his cooks are like this, like from a foreign country, like
But
so
he-
cold,
he
and he's
brought a lot
drinking
of
wine. He's like,
people.
"Cheers, cheers!" Like minus 15.
He brought a lot of people there. Even the guy that does the pizza rating thing. What's his name? What's that guy?
Which
From Barstool Sports.
Barstool Portney.
Oh, the guy that does it.
He
He
had
always
dinner,
he
he had
does.
dinner with them there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he brought publicity to his restaurant.
That guy always takes a pizza he ate and he rates it, right?
Yeah.
Barstool Sports.
They run right outside and eat it out of the box,
Yeah.
standing in front.
He's made it quite an impact.
Maybe he's gonna come to
He's
PizzaFace one day.
donated more money to the hospitality industry in the States than the government.
Did he?
has.
Yeah.
Personally, from Barstool Sports, he raised more money.
And he was leading the charge against Robin Hood too,
Yeah.
after the GameStop thing.
Well, he's a stock.
yeah, I think we're
by definition of trade.
that's where he came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end,
Come to
call the
SS106.
restaurant, order in. Don't you skip the dishes. Call the restaurant. It helps a lot. Like, listen, you're stuck in your house with your wife, with your sister, with your brother, with your mom and dad. You need a break. Go for a drive. Go for a walk. That mental health. Grab a drink on the patio while you're waiting for the food to go. But don't you skip the dishes. Order in. Come in and see me. Come see this face. I promise I'll only rant for like a minute, and then I'll let you leave. But come into not my
Also,
restaurant,
Yeah,
all
Or the
restaurants.
next drinks on the house.
Don't complain. Like, if you also use it, don't complain that like your $26 pizza was lukewarm, because it's actually $19. But by the time your lazy ass got it delivered, it's $26.
And then you tip the driver.
Well,
Yeah,
and
and then
then,
you tip the
and
driver,
the-
and then
And the guy made 11 stops
Then
on the
you
way
tell
to
me how
your
much your
house, so-
$30.
and I'm gonna
pizza
tell you,
cost.
man, skip the disc drivers. They come in here when I don't even have it at the moment because they're looking for another restaurant.
And-
If they can't find the restaurant, they can't find the fucking house.
Also,
So and they're just leaving it at some random guy's door.
Also, give credit to this guy because he's hosting a podcast and adapting to the changes the government is doing while he's complaining about them at the same time, and still making a business and still
Agreed.
paying people and still having his employees here. Like,
We're still afraid not to speak our minds, so
exactly. He's
Exercise
free to speak
your
your
right.
mind. I appreciate that you are holding the government accountable, but also doing your part to bust your ass. And that's I haven't seen. There's two sides of this coin. There's people that
Yeah, I agree.
complain. There's people that sit back and complain. And there's people that make a difference.
Like,
do
and we
shit.
know
you
you're
can still complain if you get out and
we
work.
know you're not
Work.
gonna stop having those house parties because you're not gonna stop. So at least order food for me. Get a couple bottles of wine
Yeah.
because I can't stop you from hanging out with your family and friends. So just bring your money to the small
When I
business.
see